What's up guys, my name is DePirro. I play guitar in Night Verses, and I'll show you some of my gear. So over here, these are my guitars, my main ones. This is my main guitar I use mostly, even though these are the same guitar. It's a JP15. I have it tuned to drop C, and one really cool thing about these guitars is they have the piezo pickup. So if you switch this, it becomes basically an acoustic type sound, and I bounce between different tones within this one. This guitar I generally keep in drop C. I use the power slinkies from Ernie Ball, and I've also been using the Paradigm recently, and those are awesome. They last super long and generally don't break very easily, so those strings are rad. 11 gauge strings, so for lower tunings I usually use the thicker power slinkies. Have the 11 gauge lower or thicker low end strings, but I also like it to be a little bit loose, so like a lot of my guitars will have like kind of a little bit of a give for bending and things like that. It allows for more flexibility. And yeah, so that's my main guitar. This one over here is more or less the same exact guitar, but I keep this one in drop C, and then these two strings I keep down a whole step, which I also use on that guitar, but I switch between tunings on that more often. So this is like, that's generally the main tuning I'll use. So when I need to switch to this one, it's kind of ready to go for that tuning, which is a CGC, FGC. So that's that tuning. Oh, and these guitars also have the whammy bar. I don't have them currently installed on this, but it's been really cool actually writing with these, because I just got them earlier this year. I just kind of signed on with Music Man, and having the whammy is like super cool for writing, and we're gonna incorporate that a lot more on our newer stuff. And picks. These are the picks I've been using. So these are Nylon medium guitar picks, also Ernie Ball, and they're a little thin, so it helps kind of like not break strings, because they kind of have more of a flexibility when you're playing. And I tend to strum pretty hard, so that part's pretty useful. And then, yeah, so these are the actual strings that I use. These are the Paradigm 11 gauge. And these are rad. So if you haven't checked these out, I'd highly recommend checking these out. They last a lot longer than the regular nickel strings. And then I got this guitar. So because Ernie Ball doesn't make 8 strings yet, I'm kind of trying different ones. This is the Stawberry. This one's pretty badass. I mean, the headless part is interesting. I think visually it's a unique looking guitar, and sonically it's really cool because it sounds really good in the lower tunings, but it doesn't feel like you're playing like a big 8-string guitar, which some of them I think kind of have that like overly massive feel. So when you're playing this, it actually feels kind of like a 6-string, which is pretty rad. And this guitar, I kind of always forget the exact thing, but it's I think it's F, C, F, I think A sharp, C sharp, F, C, F. So this guitar I have in like kind of an open tuning. So everything I can play on these bottom strings I can play on these top strings as well, which creates some cool stuff with like harmonics and kind of just like the whole open chord across the board is one full chord. So this thing's super useful for you know, different creative opportunities, I guess. This is the stock pickup. So I think they switched to a different company, but these are the EMG X. They are active, so you have to put the battery in, you know, every once in a while. They last a pretty long time though. I change it maybe, you know, once or twice during a tour. But yeah, this guitar is rad. In this set, we have one song where I actually only break this out for the second half of last song on our set, which is number 0 on our new record. And there's other songs on the record that I use this on like the whole time, but for that song, this comes out during the second half, like bridged outro, which I actually switch in the moment. So there's a whole ring out section. I'm playing this or one of these guitars the whole time, and then I switch to this guitar, and I have like 16 bars to do so. So like that switch has to happen. Like I basically keep this guitar like real close to me, so I can just quickly take this off, switch this, plug it in, and it's, you know, good to go in that sense. But yeah, that part can be a little tricky, but I got used to it, so it's not too bad. So these are actually the Stawberry. They have a set that they make for these specifically. So the tension on it, I guess, is just built specifically for the Bowden OS 8, which is what this is. And I believe DR makes them, but I just get them from the Stawberry site. So it's just their generic 8-string guitar string. Because the other string companies that make them, they kind of stick out also down here a little bit. So they fit this guitar. Other companies will kind of like have the ends out a little bit, which, you know, it doesn't have to be an issue, but it's a little cleaner to just use their string. And it sounds good. So, you know, don't mess with it, I guess. So for my amp, I'm with Blackstar amps. So this is the Series 1 100 watt 6L6, which is supposed to be similar to the more Mesa Boogie style tone. I love this head because it has 4 channels. So you got a clean, a crunch, and then 2 distortions. One primarily is supposed to be a lead distortion and one's a rhythm. I tend to use the rhythm just for everything, and then I use the lead as more of like a, I guess like a quiet tone. So when I want a part to kind of like build into something, like maybe a quiet riff before it breaks into like a big riff, I'll use the lead tone, and I have that kind of set to like a quieter volume. Almost like kind of like a shitty tone too, in a way, you could say. And yeah, like this head is great for our band specifically because we do a lot of different dynamics, and having the ability to kind of bounce between clean, like a lo-fi crunch, and like lower distortion, main distortion is very helpful because I don't have to like have EQ pedals and like different things like that, which I mean I will also incorporate at times, but it's just very useful to have that for all those different options. And I also run 2 2x12 cabs, which are the matching Series 1 cabs. And I guess that'd be stereo, so I run one on each side of the stage, both coming out of this head, which I used to use just a 4x12 and just a regular half stack, but I found being the only guitar player, it's a lot more beneficial for just a widening, bigger sound to have a cab on each side. So that's kind of been my setup for the last couple tours. And yeah, so that's been pretty rad. And if needed, you know, I can stack them too, and it becomes a big amp. On my board, I start with my tuner, which is the Korg Pitch Black tuner. This thing's awesome actually because there's this whole thing right here is a screen, and it's LED. It's really bright, so you can see it in the day. If it's dark or bright in the day, it's you know, really easy to use in that sense. And then I have it going into this overdrive pedal, which is I believe it's a Moon or Coco, a Moon pedal. It's, you know, it's a pretty basic overdrive. I use it more as a boost, so it's not, I'm not so much focused on the actual overdrive tone in this pedal as much as just kind of like it adds a little bit of an extra kind of oomph to, mostly I use it for the 8 string. Just kind of like, because the low end is so low that when I'm switching guitars using the same exact settings, it's helpful to have like a little bit of a boost control situation, and that pedal is really good for that. And this is the Ricochet, so I have it going like this. So the Ricochet is kind of like an alternative version to the Whammy. It does very similar things, but without the expression pedal. So you can kind of push on this, it'll shoot up the same way as if you were to do that as like a pitch shift. But I use this pedal right now to basically have my guitar, like you can set it so it's a permanent down like 2 steps. So instead of changing tunings and using a different guitar, I can just hit this pedal on and it drops me down like a whole step or 2 or whatever I want it to do. And it keeps me there. So I can play the whole song, for example, in a drop A sharp instead of drop C, but I keep my guitar in drop C, just turning that pedal on, which is rad. It saves a lot of it saves a lot of time, and it saves a lot of, you know, needing the extra guitar to carry with and stuff. And the Whammy is probably my favorite pedal overall. I use this in almost every song that we have, and I mean, a lot of people I'm sure are familiar with it, but it's basically a pitch shifting pedal. So all the settings just put you either in a harmony setting, or you can like pitch shift up octaves or down octaves. It's super fun pedal to mess with, especially when you incorporate it with, you know, delays and reverbs and stuff like that. It can get really kind of tripped out. So I use that one. This is a wah, just a basic Jim Dunlop wah. It has a couple of extra settings, like, you know, there's a boost here. There's a couple of knobs on the side. It's kind of like volume EQ settings, but I kind of just have it full blast for, you know, when I use it, it kind of just boosts everything and it kind of punches through the mix a bit. And then this goes into the Arpeggiator, which this pedal is a trip, probably the weirdest pedal I have. It's basically an Arpeggiator. So Earthquaker Devices makes this, and there's a couple different settings, but the general use of it is it's an Arpeggiator. So you hit one note and it'll just do a whole scale. So depending on how many notes you want in your scale, you can have it go up to, you know, the full octave, 12 notes, or you can have it do just even between one note. So you can hit one note and it'll just bounce between that, or you can have it do like the whole thing and like start over, which is really cool. And I use that specifically in this set. I use it for one part. So in the song Earthless, there's a whole like a quick little section where I hit a note and it does like this fast scale. It's kind of crazy sounding. And that's this pedal. Interesting pedal for sure. And then this goes into my noise suppressor, which just a basic Boss NS2. I think these are the noisier pedals, so having this kind of like mellow those out, I found this is like a good placement for it, kind of in the middle. And then this is a foot controller. So I have my fuzz, which is this, reverb, and both of my delays. Basically everything right here is going into this, which allows me to control, I can have all these pedals on, and I can control them from here. So if I ever want to just switch on fuzz or switch on delay, I just hit this and they come on, and I don't have to fuss with these here, which is, it's good for like fast switching and like, you know, when you're trying to do a lot of effects at one time, instead of trying to reach over to all these pedals, you can just kind of control them right here, which has been very helpful for some of these songs. And yeah, so this is my Taurus fuzz pedal. Taurus pedals are from a company out in Arkansas, a smaller company, but they make some really cool stuff. And I love this specific fuzz pedal. It's awesome. So like I use this in a couple of songs in this set as well. And it's really just, you know, a saturated, heavy fuzz kind of high sound. And then this is the Holy Grail, so it's a reverb pedal. I kind of keep it on this flurb setting, which is basically like a chorusy kind of reverb thing, which I like it a lot. I think it kind of replaces what a chorus might do, so I usually just keep it here instead of getting a chorus. I'll just use that. And it also does the reverb pretty well. And then you know, this is the DD6, which is basically, I use it for the dotted delay stuff. So anything that's like the fast, kind of like repeats. So if you're like playing like a din 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 din, it'll repeat like tick 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 like really fast. So like that's kind of, I use that just for that pedal. So like this, or just for that effect. So this one I just control here, and it's pretty simple for the most part. And then this is I use for my quarter note delay, which is the DD20 Giga delay. Also Boss, but the best thing about this pedal is that it has the tempo meter here, so I can dial in the exact tempo for whatever song we're in, so it's always on time, and I don't actually have to sit and like tap in the tempo for that stuff. It's just ready to go, which I have presets for all that as well. It has 4 banks, I think, so for certain songs I might adjust that, but that one's been very helpful for all the live stuff. And then this pedal is probably, like this is probably I use this the most, but this is probably my favorite pedal to play with, to write with and stuff, because it creates, it's a reverb pedal, but it creates this insane wall of sound that I haven't heard in any other pedal yet, at least. And there's a lot of different settings in terms of like, they're kind of subtle, but when you have a chord ringing out and you can kind of manipulate these a bit, it can get really weird and like gets like kind of like wavy, or it can be very just like extremely ambient, so where you can hit one note and it'll just decay forever. And it's awesome. Like that, I use that, you know, sometimes in transitions for our set. So we'll have parts where, like that part I was mentioning earlier, where I switch guitars, I hit this pedal in between that so the note just carries on, which allows me to kind of switch quickly and keep up the noise, so it's not just like quiet when I switch. That's pretty much it. That's my board. If you want to look us up, you can find us. Nightverses.com has the links to all our social medias. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Everything's just at Nightverses. And if you want to find us as individuals as well, you can follow our pages. Easiest way would probably just be to go to our Instagram and we follow ourselves. Otherwise, just our names. Just Nick DePirro, Riley Herrera, Eric and Proda. Everything, just Instagram is probably the best way to follow us there. And I work with some really cool companies, so I just want to say, you know, big thank you to Ernie Ball and Black Star. They've been awesome supporters of our band, and these guitars, you know, some of the nicest guitars I've ever played, and I love this amp, and I fully, you know, back these companies. They've been really awesome, and anyone interested in working with any of these companies or you're interested in these guitars, check them out for sure. And thank you.